Hi, welcome FLL Challenge community. We have our robot game Q&A. So everything focused on robot game setup, robot game rules, robot game missions. Joining me tonight is our regional head referee, Phil. If you've been a returning team, you may have seen him at many events. He's been a longtime volunteer for us for many years and an awesome head ref. And I'm going to turn the show over to him.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jill. It's a pleasure to speak with everyone today. So, yeah, really excited about this year's mission, game, Submerged. The field is very unique, and there's a couple of really interesting things. I can't wait to see how the teams sort of tackle these missions, as some of them are quite challenging. So, I'm just going to start with just a couple of, I guess, rule changes that have introduced this year. I think one of the things, let me share my screen here. There we go. I'm assuming folks
I'm
can see.
seeing the I'm seeing the rule book. Yep.
Okay, good. All right. So
And
basically,
for
in the
those who are not familiar with GoToWebinar, you can control the Zoom and
good.
how all of that looks on your private screen. So if it's a little small, you can actually zoom in. So
Okay, I'll make this as big as I can. So one of the key changes that actually was introduced in the updates and clarification portion, and for those of you who may be new to FLL, these updates come out weekly-ish, and they are found at the first Inspires, basically the challenge updates and resources on the game page for First Lego League Challenge. And right here is where you would get it. And the last update was October 1st. And what I want to do is point out the key change in the rules between, I guess, last season and this season is this update 2, extending past the walls of home upon return. Now, as many of you know, the home area is defined as this, where's this? Well, it's this area here. In other words, home is, actually, let's find the right, here we go. There's the drawing. All right, so home is defined as the yellow area. So it encompasses the launch area, both left and right, and extends past the mat to the wall, the far left wall of the playing field. Now, in seasons past, the interpretation for, if something is completely in home or not, is whether the robot or robot equipment, any part of it, if any part of it upon return extended beyond this, the borders of home, past the wall, if you will, or past the line of the wall, it would be considered out, and therefore the subsequent interpretation would apply of something being out of home or not completely in home, technically. But this update basically has said extending past the walls of home upon return. Extending past any wall of home upon return counts as completely in and can be handled without penalty. So this is a change for this season, and it should make things a little easier for referees and teams, oftentimes, because that's frequently something that I know I've commented on and have called teams on for things extending past the wall upon return. So this has been changed, and now it's let in. So good news for everyone. Should make things a lot smoother at the tournaments. Okay, so that's basically it as far as what I wanted to start off with and get everyone sort of keyed in. I think now, I guess it'd be a good time to just sort of, I guess we can just sort of take general questions.
yeah, so we have a first question.
Oh, good.
The first question that came up is, can the attachment on the robot be on the red line or blue line, so left or right,
Mm-hmm.
in the launch area? I assume when they're trying to launch
Trying to launch. Okay,
yeah.
so excellent question. Excellent question. So I will refer to the rule book. So for match inside home. Okay. Okay, here we go. So when launching, 15. When launching, technicians may not keep anything from moving. Okay. And the robot and anything it is about to move must fit completely inside the launch area. Okay, so that's a terrible picture for this. Let's go back up here. So again, the launch area is defined as, here we go. I'm just going to use the left one as left launch area as an example. Is this quarter circle area? So the question, can the robot attachment be on the line? It can be on the line. It cannot be beyond the line. Is the interpretation here? So generally, if it would be considered in, so to speak. So not out, as long as it's the line is.
And if it's too close to call, don't make the refs stop you in what you're doing, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, that's the other
Make it
thing too. We
obvious,
will
right?
check. I mean, this is a good launch is the key thing, and refs will be staring down at the robot, and if from their vantage point it looks like it's over, they will stop the team from launching and have them move it, and that takes precious time because obviously the clock is ticking. So please, yeah, make sure they can be on the line. They just can't be over the line during launch, and likewise coming back from home. Except again, as I pointed out, when they go to home, they can't be over the home line.
Next question. Is it okay if extensions extend past the wall actually during the run? So can they extend beyond the game field during the run? And I think talking through the north versus south, I think will be important here.
Yeah, that's true. So of course, as the rules state, the launch, everything has to be contained with the launch area upon launch, right? Once the robot has left the launch area and is completely left the launch area and is out in the field, it can drive around and parts of it could hang over the side and so forth, and that's fine. However, the robot cannot interfere with the other team's field. So it cannot. Now, if you imagine the way that the tables are set up in during the tournament is that there's one table in this orientation here, and if you can imagine another table, kind of mirror flipped over here. I don't know if you can see my mouse move. Can folks?
Yes, we can
Okay,
see your
great.
mouse move. Yep.
So therefore, if the robot was to have part of their attachment, arms hang over the edge here and run this way, that is not allowed. That would be interfering, potentially interfering with the
Yeah, page 17 of the rulebook has a picture of that configuration.
Page 17 of the rule books, 13, 14, 17. Ah, there we go. Thank you. Right. So this is what your teams would expect to see when they go to a particular tournament. They'll be playing on one table, and the another team would be playing on the other table simultaneously. So we have two teams running at the same time during a 2.5-minute match. So yeah, if it wants to hang over here, that's fine. Over here is fine. Here over here is fine. Just do not. You just cannot cross the line into the other playing field. Nor can they, obviously, nor can they interfere, with anything that's happening on the other table. They can. The only exception, of course, is this mission model here, where they're able to interact with this submarine and push it back and forth. But that's sort of the only sort of exception to it. In general, you can't cross this line.
So this is a very interesting one. So does that mean that you can have your robot hanging over the wall, part of it still in the game area, and count as being completely in home? And I think yes.
Oh, so completely in the home area, but part of it hanging over the wall. Yes, that is the interpretation I would make with respect to this point here. Extending past any wall of home upon return counts as completely and can be handled without penalty. Now, I'm just thinking out loud really fast here. So let's say it hangs over this part of the wall. Let's say it hangs, into the opponent's side.
That's iffy, right?
That's
That's
kind of iffy. That's kind of iffy. Again, generally, right? Fair play. We don't want to interfere, with the other team's playing field. You're interfering with their home, potentially preventing them from using the entire space of their home, right? That's not cool. And that's I think the intent. So yeah, depending on the egregiousness of how, yeah, that just should not be done.
So more home questions. So
Yep,
is it correct then that you can return to the home instead of to launch?
absolutely, absolutely. The rules basically say outside home. I mean, home is defined as, where's the home is this entire area here, right? So if a robot, let's say, is completing missions and, can, instead of returning this way, they want to return this way, totally allowed. However, they must completely be in home in order for them before the team interacts with it. Otherwise, there'd be a potential penalty. And obviously, any cargo they retrieve from the field must be completely inside home before they interact with it. And this space is relatively narrow, right? It's about 8 inches, 10 inches. It's probably 8 inches.
It-
It's not that.
It's,
It's not that
yeah,
deep.
maybe even less depending
Yeah,
on the table, right?
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
The
So,
mats aren't precise and the tables aren't precise. So
mhm,
be aware
exactly.
that it can
So there's
vary.
not a lot of space. I mean, again, you have to be aware of it. The robot, again, the robot has to be completely within home before interacting with it. Okay, so where's match setup?
Okay, so I'm gonna keep going with
Mhm.
home and launching questions, and then
Yep.
we'll get to some
Okay.
of the mission questions.
Yep.
So this one is around once the technician launches the robot, uh, and if the robot immediately turns into the home area, is that
Uh-huh.
allowed?
So basically, you're saying, okay, the technician goes, launches the robot exits home, and then immediately turns back into the home area.
But do they have to completely leave launch? I think is really the
Oh,
intent. Before, like, has that been launched? Do they have to leave the launch area completely in order for it to be considered to launch?
let's find. That's an interesting question. Let's find a reference to that. Let's see. During launch, setup. Hmm, that's a very interesting question.
It is, right? I don't know if that's covered. Hopefully there's an update.
Yeah, because in previous rules, in previous copies of the rules, there was actually a definition with respect to what a launch is and when you could interrupt the robot, you know, before it leaves home, it's not considered a launch, right? It's there you wouldn't. So that's very interesting. I'll do some research and get back to you. Let's mark that down. Let's write that down to get back to everyone as far as yeah, whether
Yeah,
the robot after launching the robot, let's say what you're basically saying is the robot, the technician starts the robot starts to move, and it doesn't even leave the launch area, but goes back here, probably drives back here to interact with something on the side. That's
yep,
kind
exactly.
of my
It's basically it. And is that
yeah.
considered launch? I
Hmm.
think it is. It
I,
doesn't
I
specifically say that you have to completely leave launch
I don't think so.
area
Yeah,
to be
I'm
launched.
kind of
So
I'm leaning
I'm
that way
leaning that
too.
way. Yeah.
I'm leaning that way too. I think that should be allowed. I just have residual memories in my
Yes.
head about previous versions of the rules, which may have been more explicit about that. But I'm going to scour the current set again to see if there's anything that I
And
can
we'll
point
send out
to.
an update on the
Yeah,
Google group if that is different than what we believe. But we believe
yes,
that that is okay.
exactly.
Um,
That's the
okay.
present interpretation. That's a
Yes, that
great
is it.
question.
That's a great question, right?
I love it.
Okay. Next, start or that type of question, launch, so forth. So we'll get to the mission
Hmm.
ones. Um, can technicians swap any time in the 2.5 minute duration?
Swap now. Excellent question. And I know where that is. Okay, so I'm at the page 16. So basically, at the beginning, the teams are divided into two groups, right? Basically, one set assigned to left launch area, one side assigned to right launch area. And basically, if you let's say you have more than 4 members on your team, other team members can swap in. That's totally allowed. However, as it says here, team members may swap places with technicians from the same side, right? So in other words, if someone comes in, if they started on the right side and someone comes in and they want to swap in and out, they kind of stay on that side. We don't, if like someone swaps in, we can't, that technician then can't swap over here. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Teams are kind of limited to the size that they started on, and that first time they're substituted in.
And this is like the third year for
Hmm.
2 homes, and I think it's still confusing for teams. So
It is. It
that
is.
divide by 2 is really tough for a team. So definitely something to practice because you probably aren't
Exactly.
doing that when you're like at your home, right?
Yeah.
Field.
Exactly. If you have an odd number, especially of technicians or of team members, it may be challenging. You know, one person's really good at a, a process over here and over here, but no, it's right here. Team members may swap places with technicians, but from the same side at any time.
Yep. So next one is right at the beginning of the game. Can the robot start from either the blue or the red?
Absolutely.
Launch area, not home.
Absolutely.
Just the
Absolutely.
question says home, but I think they mean
Yeah,
launch.
absolutely. There's no compelling reason to start from I mean, you can't, yeah, you can start from either side, whatever makes sense to the team and the strategy. Yep.
Can team members pass any equipment, so that means robot or attachments,
Hmm.
from one home to another by
Ah,
hand?
no. Right here.
Yeah, right. No.
Page what is this? Page 17, point 14. Technicians may not hand anything from one home area to the other, touch anything outside the home area except for
And
interrupting
that
the robot.
includes mission models and equipment.
Hmm.
So it's
Anything.
everything,
Anything.
anything,
So that's
even a
that's
piece of
all.
paper. So if you have a piece of paper that you brought to kind of help with what program is in which slot, you're
Yeah.
not allowed to hand that either.
Technically, no. Technically, no.
Yep. Um, can a technician keep equipment attachments in the home area, hanging or extending outside the wall? So
Excellent
yeah,
question.
we talked about this one,
We
didn't
talked
we?
about this. Yes. So this has been defined. So, okay, before the match setup, page 16. Teams will not be given extra storage. Yeah. Okay. Everything must stay on the table or in the hands of the technicians. Now, this is technicians, not teammates, technicians. Only the people that your two, students at the table interacting with the robot may hold attachments or equipment. The areas to the left and right of the mat can be used to store equipment. Equipment stored on the table may extend past left and right walls only as needed. So something could hang out over this part of the wall or this part of the wall. That's fine. That's in there. That is as needed. But everything has to be, within, within the home area. It can't extend into the mat area.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going through and trying to get for everyone on the call. I'm trying to skip all the mission ones and get rules, particularly launch and start, because I know
Mhm.
that's very confusing,
It's
particularly for our
it's
rookies.
very important.
And it's the most important piece. Yep.
Mhm.
Let's go into robot inspection, which
Ah,
is prior to the game start. It
yep,
says equipment attached need to fit in a launch area and the height can't go above 12 inches.
yep.
So is height also checked during launches, or when is that 12 inches checked?
It's only checked, and I'm looking desperately for rules again because of past historical memory. But the 12
I think it
inches,
was just there,
it's
8.
only
I think it's
for,
number 8.
right. It must fit. This is the height check for the equipment check. This is done at the beginning of the match. Everything needs to fit under a maximum height limit of 12 inches.
Before the match, not
Correct.
during the match. Yeah,
But during the match, I know
there's no
there is
limit.
no
Yeah, there's
there's no
no limit.
restriction.
Yep.
It just has to be, again, robots have to launch from this, everything, the equipment and everything it wants to move has to be within this area. And the volume is infinite. The height is infinite at this point.
This one I hate, but can a technician hold attachments in their hands instead of keeping it in the home area?
Okay, so only the technicians, okay, and as I mentioned previously, only technicians can hold, stuff, right? Here, where's the part? Okay. However, there is I was just reading this the other day.
So there's a general rule that the expectation is that equipment stays on the table, right? So I think you just
Yeah,
had
here we go.
it. Yep.
Everything must stay on the table or the hands of the technician. The areas to left or right, can be used to store equipment, and you know, are they storing it in their hands, or are they using it? I'm going to use it. They generally they need to be. It needs to be the technicians there. If they're, I mean, I think, we don't want to get into, personally, I don't want to get into the area of intent. Well, when am I going to use this? Well, you're going to use it at some point, otherwise you wouldn't be holding it. So, generally that, it should be allowed. I think that's fine. But again, it's limited to the only people that can hold it are the people that actually are
And
at.
we've seen
Mhm.
team members tinker with attachments because they get nervous and they start fidgeting and break or
Mhm.
drop. So
Yeah,
it's kind of dangerous to like sit there and hold things in your hands
exactly.
as standard practice.
But it is. It's right here. Everything must stay on the table or in the hands of technicians. And again, only technicians, not the teammates that are in back, watching and waiting kind of stuff.
Yep. Okay, so I think I've got all of the sort of starting conditions. There's
Okay.
one other non-mission question, actually a couple. What happens if the team needs to interrupt? So let's talk about interrupt in a minute.
Yeah.
Um, is it possible for our team to view this referee rulebook? I like that question.
This referee rulebook. Yes, absolutely. Because this is oh, I'm so happy. I'd love to hear that. I want the robot room game book. This is the robot game rulebook. It is right here.
And it's the
It's
ones that the refs use.
It is the one.
There
We
is
all
no
use the
separate
same
one.
document. So yes, I love to see team members, come have that in their hand and ask questions. The rulebook says this. Does that mean I love it? Please, everything that the referees do, the key document is it's based on the rulebook again that everyone
And
should
and the
follow
challenge
and the
updates.
challenge updates. And there's been some updates this season with including some of the official videos as well. But I'm going to tell you this: in practicality, it's going to be challenging to find the right part in the video, you know, that you're referencing. So definitely I would rely, if you're going to use something, I would recommend the kids come up with, look at either the rule book here or the challenge updates. That's the easiest and most direct way, source of information that we're allowed, that the referees will use from the hierarchy
Can
of information.
can team members talk and guide the technicians on the opposite side of the table? So I don't
Oh,
think they mean on the opposing
you
table,
mean you mean their
their left
teammates?
and right, their own
Right.
teammates.
You've got two technicians over here. Can the left side be yelling at the right side? Do number 7, program 4. Don't forget, yes, team can absolutely communicate back and forth. The technicians can communicate back and forth. The team that's watching from behind can certainly be yelling at. I mean, I use the word yelling, but that's what happens during the match.
Encouraging because it's loud, it's
Encouraging.
noisy, there's
Yes,
music, there's an MC, there's an announcer, there's a
it's
timekeeper,
they'll
there's
be
a lot
yelling.
going on, right?
They'll be yelling. Practice that. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, within the team, yes, of course.
Are teams allowed to ask coaches questions during a match?
Absolutely not. Coaches, well, they can ask, but coaches cannot be giving advice, giving instructions, or any sort of communication. The referees will be discouraged at, will be yelling at you, or people. Some of the referees have large sticks, and so yeah, this is first is all about giving your students volition. being able to make decisions, and problem solve, right away, develop their own skills, right? When they do their presentations in front of the project judges, they're in there on their own, and they're interacting on with the judges, answering questions, by themselves. Same thing on the robot game field. It's all about them. And so please do not.
Coaches are our audience, not they're
Yeah,
cheerleaders, right?
yeah, exactly. Just yeah, yeah. No tactical advice, nothing like that.
Yep,
Please.
yep, please. Okay, so now I'm going to go from the top, see what other great questions around missions.
Okay,
Um,
missions. Here we
mission
go.
one, what is
Yes.
the correct starting position? What part will be touching the pad in the starting position of
hmm
this mission?
Okay, so basically the tree, this coral tree, will be horizontal, if you imagine, because the scoring position is basically the tree up here. So the tree will be lying sort of, if you can imagine, sort of flat down on the holder. And you'll note one thing to point out is that the ring, there's sort of two positions for the ring when it's down in the flat position. When you go home, when you go back to your mats and you look you'll see it. The teams during this mission, during the time that the teams are setting up, they can request the referee, hey, I want the tree to be in one orientation or another to accommodate whatever position of the ring. That's fine. But imagine it just laid out flat.
Yeah, and I think the video has a good picture of that one. So if
Yeah.
you haven't seen the field setup video, it's in that
hmm
same challenge area.
Yeah. Yeah. This up
Okay,
here. Yeah. This area here.
so
Okay.
let's see.
Oh, one thing to point out while we're looking here is you'll note that this mission has this little icon thing here. That means no equipment can be touching any part of the model at the end of the match. So be aware of these icons as they pertain.
For the mission 6, raise the mast. Is it
Yes.
okay if the mast is raised 180, I think they mean degrees,
Uh-huh.
or is not standing upright? Do we still get full points?
Okay.
So
Here
look
we
at
go.
update. Yeah, the last
This is
update.
it. So basically, it has to be upright and resting on the latch as shown. Moving the mast beyond this position, which it will, you could have it you can imagine it tilted all the way in this direction here. It can be done on the model, but that's not scoring because it says right here, moving the mast beyond this position will not score. And again, an official update and clarification. So this is what they need to do.
Yep.
And
So no.
upright and latched.
Yep. And latched. That's the
hmm Resting on the latch. And again,
yeah.
it's pretty obvious when you look at the model.
Can we pick up the whale from the left side and take it to the right side?
The whale, you mean this model?
I don't think they mean the whale. I think they mean the shark.
The shark. Okay, that's this thing. Okay, and the question is, can we take it from the left side and put it to the right side? Is that
That
the
is
question?
that question. And so
Okay, it's
it's
an interesting question. Well, according to where's the rule about the robot could take it over there. In other words, the robot, once the robot can retrieve the shark and move it from, to either any home area that they want. However, trying to find the rule, it has to be done by the robot. The team can't. Let's say, um, I'm sorry, the shark here. It's on the left side. I'm trying to find the spot on it. It's on the left side, closest to the
yeah,
left
it's
home area.
closest to the left home area. Yep.
When it releases, it goes into the more or less into the left home. You know, teams cannot pass things between sides. So they physically can't hand it to the other side. However, if they program the robot to drive it over there into the other, from the left launch area to the right home area, that's allowed. But
And
but
what
I would
happens if that shark doesn't go completely in home?
completely in home. So let's find it. So completely in home. Oh, it's beyond. Darn it. So it's after the missions. Where's the rules
I,
section?
I know, yeah, right. They always switch the rules
hmm
to
Okay.
whether they're before or after.
Okay. Here we go. So if it's partially, okay, if equipment or a piece of mission robot is dropped or left outside home by the robot, wait for it to come to rest. If it rests completely inside home, or if it's outside come home, it stays where it is unless the robot stays. If it's partially inside, which this is the scenario that Jill, you're describing, it stays as is unless the robot moves it. So let's say the shark slides into home, but the tail is sticking into the mat, right? So it's not completely in home. It's partly inside home. Stays where it is until the robot moves it, okay? Alternatively, at any time, the technicians may remove it by hand. If the object removed by hand is a mission model, it must be given to the referee for the remainder of the match. If it's equipment, it's taken into the home area and the team will lose one precision token. So the shark is a mission model. It's given to the ref. Then if that's
If
the
you
case,
touch
it
it,
can't score if you
yes.
touch it, right? So therefore it can't score because at the end, it's, it says here, shark is no longer touching the cave and
So you would get
and
that,
it's
you would get that
mhm,
points. You would get the
right.
20.
But you wouldn't get this thing here because it's not
Yep.
on the map. So
Yep. For the 3 coral segments, are you
here we go.
allowed to change the position they are facing before the robot game starts?
Uh, yeah, generally kind of yes.
Is
Um,
it?
I
Or
mean,
is that going to be the randomness of the game field
I
setup?
think the randomness of the field set explicitly applies. I think it only applies to the whatchamacallits, the krill. I mean, basically, they have to be within the circle, the little circle points of where they start, right? It's like here, there, and there. I don't recall any in orientation. Let's check here. Oh wait, up, 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 up. I'm mistaken. I apologize. Update 7. Starting locations of the 5 krill and 3 reef segments are depicted in the figure below, right? The orientation of the krill along with the orientation reef segment is unspecified and randomly selected by the referee for the match. So
So no, you
no,
won't be
it
able to
cannot be,
change
it
that.
can't specify. I apologize for that confusion, but no, can't do it.
Yep,
It's
and it'll
random,
be random. Yep.
most likely by the field resetter.
Yeah, most likely by the field reset. Um, if we remain completely in the launch area and we solve a mission without actually leaving launch, and the robot touches the robot after that, does that attract any penalty?
I don't understand the question. So you're saying if the robot, if,
So it stays in launch, it puts
okay,
down an arm that extends, does
and does
something,
something.
and then brings the arm back up so that everything is still completely in home now that
Mhm,
you've effectively returned to home.
mhm.
Is that a penalty?
Uh, no, because the team hasn't interacted with anything. I mean, hasn't interrupted the robot at all during its operation, right? I'm assuming the robot extends the arm, does something, and returns the arm to the home all that time autonomously, right?
Right. And then they touch the robot when it's
Completely
completely
in
back
home.
in home.
Yeah,
You're good.
you're good. Yeah, that's how it should function. Yes.
What happens if the team is short, needs to interrupt the robot but can't reach it because it's too far away?
Excellent. Now, referees, you have the team ask the referee, can you grab the robot for us? And the referee be happy to do it. At least the ones with long arms. Some of the referees have short arms too. But yes, just ask the referee, and they'll and
And be
they'll
and
go
be
ahead.
careful about interrupting with uh, at, cargo.
Yes, that is true. And the reason for that is because of where the cargo is at the point of interruption during the match. If the technicians interrupt the robot, it must be relaunched. If the robot or anything it was in contact with at the time of interruption was outside of home, even partly, the team loses one precision token. If the robot or any objects it was in contact with were partly outside home, they must be brought into the home area. Completely outside home, teams may hand them to either home area Any returned object that was attained outside home after the robot was last launched must be given to the referee for the remainder of the match, right? So what this means is if they interrupt the robot with something that a mission model, let's say a reef piece or something that they gathered after the robot left the launch area, that piece goes away. It gets handed to the ref and it doesn't score or can be used. Now on the flip side, let's say they launched out from home with the reef model, that can be returned to either home area. So I think that the thing that the referees like to have in mind is, whatever starts from home can stay in home, basically. That's kind of the mnemonic to remember. So
Okay, this one is a little subtle. Since we get to choose the orientation of mission one setup, and it
okay,
says the tree
yes.
must be in the holder, can
Mhm.
we move it a little bit out, but make sure its bottom is still in the holder? So not just
Oh,
rotate.
oh, oh,
Ugh, ugh, you're killing me.
oh, I don't
This,
know.
this is like
I
a
don't know.
referee's nightmare. I hate
Uh,
these kind of
That's
questions.
that's an interesting question because I think as a referee, you'd want consistency on your table. And so the behavior would be, to me, it would be like, hey, what orientation do you want the ring in? They would say, left side up or left side down. I would do that and then sort of push it so it's against fully insert into the holder because then it's consistent, right? Across,
Yep,
consistency. So I'm thinking no,
yep,
and
that's what I'm thinking.
we'll have a discussion with the other referees, during the referee training, but to make sure that we're consistent in this behavior, because yeah, that kind of borders on, well, yeah, that's not, yeah,
You
it's
don't
not
want to be modifying,
exactly.
generally the rule or guidance is that you're not modifying the field for a specific team.
Mhm.
The problem with mission one is it allows you to change the orientation, but it's just the orientation basically of that
This ring,
upright tree, right? Basically it's of the ring.
yeah.
Um, and so other types of modifications like moving missions that aren't dual locked down, like none of those other things can be done.
Mhm.
Right? In years past, people would say, well, can you move that out of my way?
Oh,
It's,
actually,
no,
no.
because I'm
No,
not
it's there
using
for
it.
a purpose. Exactly. We're not using this
Yeah.
model. Well, yeah, it's a physical obstacle that exists. That robot has to navigate around or through, and with the consequences thereof. So yeah, no, can't do it.
Can we use Lego parts from other kits besides the ones that came with the Spike Prime
Yes,
kit?
yes, you can
With some
during
limitations, right?
with some limitations, but yes, generally it is. Where's the inspection part? Come on, why is it like having to reload every time? I've got a gazillion bits of. I have a lot of memory in this computer. I don't understand why this is doing this. All right, so during the robot inspection, okay, here we go. All equipment must be Lego building pieces in original factoring condition, except string and pneumatic tube cut to length. Teams may use many non-electric Lego pieces that they like from any set as they like. Electric equipment is only allowed as described and shown below. So Lego Spike Prime, Lego Spike Essential, Mindstorms EV3, Mindstorms Robot Adventure, Powered Up, and equivalent NXT and RCX are also allowed. So one controller, 4 motors maximum, and
And
touch,
those,
force, color,
yeah,
distance,
exactly.
oversight,
Those specific
adjustments.
sensors. There are other Lego sensors that are not
Mhm.
allowed. So that's
Correct.
probably the biggest piece. But any
Mhm.
building elements, so non-electrical, fair
Yeah,
game.
as
And
long
there's
as
some
it's
really
Lego.
cool ones. I love some of the years when I see a new piece that I haven't seen before, and then being able to talk with the kids about which set they came from
Hmm.
or so forth.
Yeah,
And every piece of Lego has the word Lego on it.
yeah,
So
somewhere. So that's how you know.
somewhere on it, that's how you know it actually has the word Lego.
So why do you have this piece on there? Because it looks cool. Yes.
Exactly, yes. For mission 10,
Option 10. Okay.
it looks like the team who does that last will get the 10 points in addition to 30 for moving the yellow flag. Isn't that against promoting co-opetition? I have to agree. I hate this type of mission.
Yes, but this is not the first time we've had competitive
It is true.
missions,
It's the
right?
second time.
The first, well, the one that most comes to my mind, which I loved, was the sumo one on the bridge, where the robots were
Oh
fighting
yeah,
for
that one.
position on the
Okay,
bridge.
so yeah, it's fighting position on the bridge. Okay, so maybe three times then. There was a ball
Yeah,
one that you could actually unscore someone's ball and put yours
exactly. And
in as
yeah, that
well.
one's it feels that kind of feels bad. Now this one is more, I think it's more, it's kind of like the sumo position. It's like a tug of war. Who can push the
So
plastic
so one
further?
of the things that's interesting about this one is um, I think people are believing that the only way that the submersible moves is by pushing the yellow flag down. I think that's embedded in this question. So I would just
Yeah,
maybe
let's talk
prompt
about
that
that.
out a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So let's look at this. So with any of the mission, any of the robot missions, what is the score? The score are the story. The, the scoring is based on the scoring criteria that's listed down here. So number one is your team's yellow is your the one on your side yellow flag down. This thing is it down? There are probably at least two ways to get this flag down. But the scoring condition is not how you did it, it's what is done. Is it down? Yes or no? If it is just down, 30 points. So that's one thing. Is submersible clearly closer to the opposing field? 10 points. Using this lever to elevate this blue thing to have the gravity slide this, pull the robot to one side or the other, um, that's not the only way to, I mean, that's not relevant to the scoring criteria, which
And
is
you can't
basically
block
which
the opposing
whichever.
team. So you can't
Yeah,
put a wall or something,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you can't force the other team to not be able to move the submersible.
Exactly. So there's the caveat. So really, it's have your team focus on the scoring condition, the submersible closer to the opposing field. That's it. That's all we're looking at.
And
So
there's lots of ways to get
take
there.
take that eye and apply it to that viewpoint. Apply it to as many other missions as you can. Right. Look at what is listed as the requirement and see what you can do with that.
So there's a general question about mission one setup about the top of the tree touching the mat and so forth. What I would really recommend, there's really no way for us to know the conditions of how you
Mhm.
built and set up your table, but recommend to get together with a few other teams, share, like each bring their mission models and see where the differences are. Having a like
Exactly.
a private or mini scrimmage is a great way, and just to put a plug out there, we do have a social site where you can actually post and say, hey, I'm in, this city and happy to have people come over, bring your challenge set, we'll show you ours and
Hmm.
see if they're actually built identically and maybe agree on like how things should look, right? That's a great way to
Hmm.
make sure that your setup is built properly. And it's also the reason why at every qualifier we have a practice match. Uh,
Exactly.
and
This.
so the practice match allows for everyone to agree on the table setup, how things work, the referees and the
Hmm.
teams all have the same common understanding. And I have a webinar specifically on preparing for your tournament, which I'll go into that kind of detail. But specifically around setup and whether you have it built properly or not, there's literally no way for us to answer that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Okay, mission 3. Can you explain the criteria for completing mission 3? Where does
okay.
each segment start and where does it end?
All right. So, okay. Again, let's look at the criteria here. The coral, if the for 20 points, if the coral reef is flipped up, not touching the mat. So basically, it goes into this orientation. Basically, that's the scoring condition. Now, the scoring condition for the reef segments, if a reef segment is standing upright, okay, these are kind of tilty, outside of home, okay, and touching the mat. Okay, so if we so they will be on in the starting position, right? They will be mission one. You'll see these little circles, not the small circles around the mat. I think there's one here, I think one here, and like one over here, right? That's where the reef models start. Okay. So the scoring condition is if a reef segment is standing upright outside of home and touching the mat. Well, let's be blunt. They're already in scoring position from the start, right? So there you go. There's no reason for the team to do anything necessarily, right? They just need to not knock them over or knock them into home, because then that if it's not upright, that scoring condition is not met. If it's in home, that scoring condition is not met, and if it's not touching the mat, that scoring condition is not met. So I hope that answers your question.
What happens if the kids do not agree with the referee and how they score the score sheet? What is the
Ah,
process to
okay,
request a review?
excellent. Have after the match, actually during the scoring with the referee, if they don't, if they should be, following along, because all right, let's take a step back. Let's put ourselves into the match. Okay, 3, 2, 1, stop your robots. Everyone stops their robot. At that moment, the referee will gather the team around and go through each of the missions. They'll have a scoring sheet. They'll go through in order. Mission 1, does it score? Mission 2, does it score? And they will go through that with the team. They'll sit there and go through each one, right? And the
And the score
team,
sheet is posted, the score sheet we use
mhm,
is posted on the same place that this rule book is.
yeah, exactly.
It's not, yep, right there.
It's one of these things here.
Uh,
Score sheet. Oh,
yeah, if you scroll down, I think it's under judging
support.
for some reason.
Oh, there
No,
we
it's,
go.
yeah, it's, I don't know why they put it under judging. It's not a judging
Yeah,
thing,
this
but
thing.
yes, yep,
This thing.
that's it.
So
Yep.
right, the team the referee will help fill this out. Team will basically go through each of these and basically, you know, this sheet reflects what is on the field and aligns with the particular scoring positions. And the team goes through that with the referee, and then the referee goes, "Do you agree?" Yes, and the team signs it or initials it, and it gets handed to the scorekeeper, and then they enter in the software and it gets posted. Now, the team should be following along and saying yes and no, I agree to all this. Now, that's fine. Now, if let's say they look up and they say the score that's on the screen of the scorekeeper doesn't agree with what they think it should be, have the team come and stand in the the question box, if you will, and there should be one at every tournament, a little area where the team members can stand for questions. They will talk to the head referee, and the head referee will go grab the score sheet, from the scorekeeper, and will manually go through and tally up the scores based on the score sheet. And sometimes we do find a mistake. Maybe something wasn't clicked correctly on the score sheet. But having done this numerous times, I would say 90% of the time it's actually right. And the team may be misremembered, or on their scoring software sheet, they've mistyped something. But any questions at all with scoring, with the game itself, maybe an interpretation of, hey, we made this change to the model. Is it okay? Come back and talk to the head referee. The head referees love that stuff. We love interacting with the teams, with the kids, and to try to help them process the game and these complicated things. But yeah, if there's ever a question about scoring, have the team come up and speak with the head referee. That's their job.
The one addition that I'll say that we tried out at our last year championship is we will have an option for some of the events that can handle Wi-Fi and have tablets to an electronic score sheet.
That's right.
So it'll look very similar. It'll be done on a tablet. The teams will still sign off. One advantage of that is that actually that score sheet, as soon as it's signed off and sort of accepted, will be immediately available in My Lumi to the coach. And they can actually go through it with the
Mhm.
team of exactly what was scored, yes or no. Otherwise, the coach actually doesn't see the score sheet,
That's
but
a good
the
point.
kids could take a picture of the paper score sheet, but the coaches wouldn't normally do that. But I don't yet know how many or which tournaments will be able to support that.
Okay.
We're trying to actually get some tablets donated or figure out how to get enough tablets for the events that have Wi-Fi available that would be able to support that. So stay tuned. I'm hopeful that we can at least get a few to do that, because I think that will actually help
Mhm.
our kids and reduce paper. So win-win all the way around.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
Next question. For mission 8, the artificial habitat, if the
Yes.
stack segment is slightly tiled, I'm not sure what that means, and
Oh,
the crab is upside down, do we get points?
well, if an artificial habitat stack segment is completely flat and upright, meaning the yellow part is down, 10 to 10 each. So we kind of have to see it, I think, the referee to be able to make it. But that's the idea, is that, you know, that the base, as here, 4 segments of each, there are 4 artificial habitats. There's one base there, one base there, one base there, one base there. Those have to be, flat. They both have to be down in order for the crab to be upright. Otherwise, the crab is on its side. And that's the scoring position. So we'll have to see what you mean by tiling.
Yeah, I don't quite know what they mean by tiling.
Yeah.
Can the technician pick up the shark by hand? I don't know where it is.
And if they can do it, I mean, if they can do it anywhere they want, and whatever, if they pick it up outside of home, it's penalty-ish.
No, I
So,
don't think they get a penalty. I think they lose it, right? I think the
well,
measure is they lose it.
if the robot is, well, it depends. If the robot leaves home carrying the shark, and then they interrupt the robot,
Ah,
it goes back.
yes.
It goes back. But if
Yeah.
they're retrieving the shark into home and they touch it while it's partially outside home, then they lose it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it
So
depends.
where's the shark when they're picking it up by hand? If
Yeah,
they shouldn't pick it up
where
at a hand if
and when
it's
did it start?
yeah, right, exactly. And where did it start from? Um, at the end of the game, do the reef segments have to be in their circle to score full points? I think we basically
This
answered
is
this, but just
Yes, this is the scoring position. These are the scoring criteria: upright, outside of home, touching the mat. It's That's it.
yep. Don't add additional constraints. Are we allowed to touch the robot during the 2.5 minute match, and the robot is fully in one of the bases, which I think they mean by home?
Home. So if the team can fully interact with the robot, if it's completely inside any of the home areas without penalty, it's yeah, it's not considered an interruption if it's at home. More questions?
Actually, try again. I was on mute. What if the submersible is exactly halfway? Who or does anyone get those extra points?
Well, each team gets evaluated on the same criteria, right? Each team will be scored at the same time by their respective referees. If the submersible is clearly closer to the opposing field, they'll get 10. If it's not, they won't. So it is possible for neither side to get these extra 10 points, right? That is a potential of, I mean, it would start in the middle. So if neither team interacts with it in a way that moves it from its starting position, then it's not closer to an opposing field. So no points for either team. Well, no bonus points anyway. The
And I
flag,
just
of course, it's all in your control.
put in the chat that someone reminded me that there are already some scrimmages posted on our social site.
Okay.
The URL in there is to our Google group, not relevant. The next link that I put in the chat and also posted it in the Q&A is to our social site. So apologize for that. I don't think I can edit that message.
Okay.
Okay. If my robot collects krill from the left side, takes it to the left launch area,
Mm-hmm.
and then the robot later launches from the right,
Uh-huh.
puts 2 krills in the right launch area,
Uh-huh.
how can we deliver 3 krills from the left to the right?
Okay. So basically, teams you can't pass anything by hand from either side to either side, right? The only way to do that is to have the robot do it. So really, there's some curl here and there's some curl over here, right? And here is your target. So, the teams should think about a way, strategically to, what's the best sequence of events to collect the robot, to have the robot to collect the krill in a way that allows them to maximize the number of krill they can deliver to the the the, the whale. And so let me point this out too. I don't mean to. It's like this. What is the criteria at the end of the match? And again, all scoring is done at the end of the match. Krill at least partially in the whale's mouth, right? It doesn't say, at once. It doesn't say, there's no time constraint or when they have to get the krill in the mouth. It's how many they have in here by the end of the match. So
The word tile in the segments
mhm.
of the artificial habitat, the word was tilted, not tiled. Sorry.
Tilted.
So
Okay.
yeah, so the scoring condition is completely flat. So tilted is not
doesn't count.
completely flat. Yeah, tilted doesn't count.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've answered about trying to transfer things from left to right. So I'm going to ignore a lot of those questions because I think they're pretty redundant at this
Can't
point.
do it.
Okay, if this is a good one that I don't think we've addressed. If an attachment mistakenly or otherwise drops onto the field, can we retrieve it by hand?
Okay, so let's look. Good question. Okay. During the match, outside of home. Okay, so something falls off the robot, right? And if a piece of equipment or mission model is dropped or left outside of home by the robot, wait for it to come to rest. If it rests completely outside of home, it stays unless the robot moves it. Partially inside home, it stays unless the robot moves it. Alternatively, in time, technicians may remove it by hand. If the robot objects by hands, it's a mission model, give it to referee. Object, if it's equipment, it must be taken to that home area and precision team will lose a precision token. So completely outside of home, stays there until the robot moves it. So the robot can retrieve it, but it's yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, nope,
it's
can't.
lost.
It's lost. Yep.
Yeah.
Lost in space. Oops.
Yep.
Yep. So sad. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay. Can krill be attached to each other?
Krill be attached to each other. Okay, let's look at the storing conditions. Collect krill, feed them into the hungry whale. Krill at least partially in the whale's mouth. What was that? I'm just looking for the rule about mission models for the match.
I think it's rule 20, maybe.
About here we go. Teams may not separate, dual lock, take models apart, or break a mission model. If a mission model is combined with anything, including the combination must be loose or simple enough that if asked to, the technician can free the mission model in perfect original condition in a single motion. Points scored using combination that fail this test will not count. So
it depends on how you attach it, right?
Exactly.
So I think last year what we settled on was kind of the one hand rule.
Mm-hmm.
If a team can swoop in with one hand and remove very simply the two mission models, that's considered a loose and simple enough combination.
Right.
If it requires two hands and time, that is not simple or loose enough.
Right. And so I think in this case, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Let's see what the teams come up with. Have the teams ask. Have the team asks, and again, this is why we have practice rounds as well. And they'll discover what but again, this is the test. So whatever how they attach the krill together, if it can meet this criteria, free the mission model in a original free the mission model in perfect original condition in a single motion. And that means like any mission model. So you have 5 krill. Let's say you have, all 5 of them stuck together. I want the one in the middle, the third one. Can you retrieve that model in one motion? Would be the question.
Yep, exactly. And usually that answer is no.
If it's
Just saying.
in the one in the middle. So yeah,
Yes,
think
yes.
about it. But yeah, let's try it out and see if it violates or does not violate Rule 20.
What happens when you're launching? So back to launching again. Can the
Okay.
edge of an arm, which is in the air, extend outside the launch area in the air? So is
Ah,
it once it goes above the edge of the table, is the airspace open and
no,
free?
no, you can't. The launch area, again, the launch area, this quarter circle area, it's a volume. The lines extend into the vertical space. So even it doesn't matter if it's touching, it can't. Any part of the robot cannot extend over that line. Actually, I think there's a picture. I think someone had sent in a question about that, and where are my slides? I made a set of slides about this. Here we go. And this was a diagram. Is this okay? Just to launch. Can folks see this slide? I can't.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to go to slideshow mode? That might be a little bit
Easier. Yeah.
easier to
Let's do
read.
that.
Yeah,
Here we go.
there we
It's
go.
big. Okay. To launch the robot to solve the mission, is the position conforming to the game rule? Okay. This is a question. It's about launching. Okay. So this is it. So the robot is in this position here, and they have this arm extending out into space. So no, because this arm is clearly over the launch, the semicircle of the launch area.
And that would
And
hold even if it was over the wall, right?
exactly. And I'm going to point out that, hey, from this angle here, it the launch area is the semicircle. So that stops here. I would argue this purple part actually is outside the launch area as well from this angle here. Actually, the purple looks like it's square with the blue part. So it looks like the backside of the robot is actually outside of the launch area as well from this angle. So everything has to be within the lines of the launch area, the volume, of the launch area. That makes sense?
Yeah, there used to be a picture of that, and I don't see it this year.
No, they've unfortunately reduced the rules a little too much in my opinion. But hey, that's first prerogative. But yeah,
Yeah.
so this part extends out, and it looks like this part also extends out of the launch area too.
Yeah, the important thing to recognize is the definition of home is a vertical extension. I think that's whether it's launch or home, it's a vertical, it has to be effectively on the field. And the only update or the exception they gave was the update where returning home you can extend over.
Exactly, exactly. You can extend over the line, right?
But it specifically says during launch, everything has to be completely in. So
Yep,
if it didn't actually say that, then we'd be able to be maybe a little bit more lenient there. But launch is
yep,
defined very clearly.
yep. Completely in the launch area.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Do both coaches need to be present? I'm going to cover that during the preparing for your tournament, but the answer is no. At least one supervising adult, which is usually one of the coaches, is the bare minimum. Um, does the height of the attachment of 12 inches is measured from the mat or from the top of the robot? And this is actually a really great question because I think it misunderstands about how that 12 inches is measured.
Yeah. So the 12 inches refers to the pre-game inspection. All teams' equipment must fit into two launch areas under the height limit of 12 inches. Okay, and that's measured from the mat. So basically, the team gathers up everything, and the referee will typically have a ruler or some, you know, calibrated stick and put it up against, you know, on the mat, and then up to the highest point on the, you know, of the stack of stuff.
And the
And it,
equipment doesn't, like attachments don't have to be attached to the
mhm.
robot at that point,
It can
right? They
just,
can
it's a big
be,
pile. It could be a
it's a
pile of
big
stuff.
a pile of stuff. And
Yeah, that's fine.
this year, do they allow hands to touch that?
I, I
I
think
don't
so.
see
I
that.
don't
Do
see
they?
any. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to look at last year's rules just to see if they've added or deleted any text. I don't think so. This looks the same to me. So
Okay. I thought
I,
last year they said that hands could help
yeah,
sort of touch and keep things in
exactly.
place. And I don't see that this year explicitly.
Hmm. Yeah,
So that's
we'll have to look.
interesting.
We'll have to look
Yeah.
and see.
Okay. Mission 9. Good question.
Mission 9.
If the unknown creature is at least partly in the cold seep, the question is, does that mean does it have to touch the mat?
Partially in the cold seep,
Seep. Yep.
seep,
I don't know what a
seep.
seep is. I don't know what that technical word is, but
Yeah. I don't see any equipment restrictions. So, and I don't see the word on the mat.
yeah,
So,
usually it'll say touching the mat if you have
exactly.
to touch the mat.
So if this thing is like on the robot and hanging, you know, over, you know, the volume of the seat, the little cylinder that would be defined, that we cut out if it extended, you know, vertically. Yeah, that's 10.
Great. Well, I think I've covered everyone's questions. We spent a lot of good time at the beginning. We are at time, a little bit over even.
Yep.
If you have additional questions and you have a couple of other things you wanted to
Yep.
go through, so let me let you go through those and then
Oh,
remind folks that they can send email, and I'll
yep.
put the email in the chat, but it's FLL game at
Hmm.
Playing at Learning,
Yep.
and that will actually go to Phil,
Yep.
and we'll get head referee
Yep.
responses from
Yep.
FLL Games. So if something didn't get answered tonight, it's a pressing question that you can't wait for your scrimmage practice round, please send that to
Yeah.
fllgame at playingatlearning.org.
Okay. So yeah, let's just go over these three questions because they were sent in before. I want to. So let me go into slideshow mode here. For mission 10, send over the submersible is required for the robot to raise the yellow bar to drop the flag. Can the robot just drop the flag without raising the yellow bar? I think we discussed this briefly. Look at the scoring conditions. It just says flag dropped on your side your side's flag dropped. So that would be no. Oh yeah, we did that. We did this one about the yellow bar thing. And then, oh yeah, 3 reef segments, 5 krills and 1 water sample laid on the field respectively in the designated area. Is the first task for the robot to collect the krills and water sample and take them back to launch area? Correct. No. Again, look at the each mission, you know, for each mission, look at the scoring condition that's listed. I think as we talked about, you know, like the reef segments, what's the scoring condition? Standing upright, touching the mat outside of home. That's the scoring condition. So
There's
technically,
no implied order.
yes, there's no implied order. The whale mission, it, 5 krill into the whale's mouth. You could do it first, you could do it last, you could do it 5 times. You know, each time the robot goes out, takes 1 krill, puts it in, and does other stuff. Totally fine. And the water sample, it's if I recall, it's just it has to be knocked over. I think basically. Hold on, let me just look. Water sample. Water sample. The water sample completely outside the water sample area. Well, the water sample area is just this ring here. So completely outside. So just outside this circle. So that's the scoring condition. So, you know, that's have your teams look at the scoring conditions and design the missions, your solutions to the missions around that. Okay,
Excellent. Thank you so much, Phil.
great
We
questions.
will, yeah, it was some really great questions tonight. Hopefully this was of value to folks, but we will call it a day. because it's getting late. And but I appreciate everyone on. We've had a really good folks and good conversation tonight. So next week we'll be talking only about judging, and then the following week we'll talk more about the structure of a tournament, its schedule, like the preparation for that. So hopefully this was a good session, and I will get it posted on the resources link on the website, hopefully tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.